There's a lot of division in this world right now through politics, war, everything. And no one seems to be able to agree with each other on anything. Except for the fact that Ben Shapiro is a terrible film critic. In case you don't know, Ben Shapiro is a conservative YouTuber and failed screenwriter. He has a massive fan base, but is also incredibly controversial for his political opinions. His film opinions, on the other hand, are almost entirely agreed upon as being terrible, even by his fans. Obviously, art is subjective, so if you share some of Ben Shapiro's opinions, that is fine. At the end of the day, this is just a stupid video that I made because I wanted some clickbait. Ben Shapiro has a history of failing to understand films and criticizing them in the worst ways possible. The majority of Ben's own fan base thinks he's a terrible critic, so I doubt I will be making many people mad with this video. If you're watching this video, just enjoy, have fun. Ben's clearly not a serious person, so don't take this video too seriously. In this video, I'll cover 5 times Ben has shown his terrible film taste. Please enjoy.
No, I'm not going to turn around and flex my butt. Come on, Nathan, cut that out. Cut that out. This is illegal. This is sexual harassment.
First up, we got his Superman review. One of Ben's most recent reviews is of the new James Gunn Superman film, and it is a total mess. My favorite part of the review is the fact that he starts the review by calling his wife dumb.
My wife and I always have an interesting time watching movies together because when I go, I'm very analytical about what I think of the movie. My wife sort of gets an overall gestalt, and it's mostly like, that was fun.
Which is ironic, seeing that Ben might actually be
STOOPID stupid.
Starting off the review, he says the film is overstuffed, which is actually a fine complaint. He also complains about the film's jerky tone, which definitely won't work for everyone, so far not a bad review. He then says the movie is full of plot holes, but he decides to not give a single example of a plot hole in the film. Ben complains the film is a betrayal of the Superman IP, and that the film doesn't understand Superman's character, which is incredibly inaccurate. This film might differ with some specific Superman IP and elements, but as a character, they were able to absolutely achieve the best representation of who Superman should be in a movie, and able to really capture this comic booky feeling better than any other superhero movie has able to before. An example he gave of the film betraying IP is that Jonathan Kent is alive, which is different from most Superman stories, which he is dead. But you're really going to say that this is a bad movie because they decided to not kill his father. The movie's main idea comes from the fact that parents only guide their children. It's up to the child to figure out who they should be in life, which is apparently just straight nonsense to Ben. And a little side note here, but he also, in his review, mentions that Jonathan and Martha Kent are dumb and ugly, which is just kind of random, rude. I don't know why that was worth mentioning at all. And it's really just scratching the surface on this masterpiece of review. His main problem with the film is that the film doesn't have enough American propaganda. I shit you not, this was his main problem with the film. He even showed the clip from the original movie to try and prove his point.
Yes, I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Basically, Ben is saying that Superman is a symbol of how amazing America is, so the movie should have spent the time talking about how the American values and how even being American is why Superman is a heroic figure. I think a character is only good because they live in a country like America instead of just wanting to do good in the world. It is so much less compelling, and it's bizarre to me that someone like Ben, who is constantly, as I'll talk about later in this video, he's constantly going on about movies having idiotic politics shoved down his throat. And he wanted this film to extensively go over the politics that he wanted to hear, which would have felt even more forced than a lot of the other shit he complains about. More terrible complaints, in his review he says the score is bad, which is crazy. The music in the film is great. It's probably the part that's stuck around the most, not just talking about the fun, that shit. That's not original score, but the score itself, like the scene, The Last Breath, how they're able to really reutilize the iconic score from the original film. Oh, it's not better than the score from the original film. It's a classic for a reason, but I think it's insane to say the score wasn't great. He complains, another complaint of his is that he complains that Superman loses the fight at the start of the film, Because according to Ben, Superman can never lose a fight, which is such a random... Like, what are you doing here, Ben? You think the character is never able to lose a fight? You understand how uninteresting of a character is? He's just perfect, never loses at all. Like, come on, man. And if you haven't seen the movie, I'm going to spoil a little bit here, but it's only just a normal fight. He was fighting a clone of himself who was controlled by Lex Luthor to be as optimal a fighter as can be. Like, there was no way he could have won the fight. And also, Ben doesn't think the film explains Superman's motives well enough, and he doesn't understand why this one man deserved to have all that power. I don't know exactly sure what he means by this, but like, I think he wanted... What do you mean Superman's motives? That doesn't make any sense. Ben believes the whole people are dying thing is not a good reason for him to try and do something. Ben doesn't believe that Superman should just want to help people. You know, in this movie, Superman, his whole thing is that he wants to help people, save people, and that's the whole war aspect of it, is he just wants to save people, do the greater good. But Ben doesn't like that. He doesn't think he should have gone into his other country's politics and stuff. Oh, it's just so frustrating. I don't want to go into all of that, because obviously you know what this leads to, and I'm not interested in talking about that at all. Basically, Ben just wanted a movie about how awesome America was, and he ended up with a great movie which started to inspire hope, which just doesn't work for Ben, I guess. Next up, we got Ben's review of The Batman. And this review was just straight up terrible, but before I get into his insane analysis of the film's message, let's just look at all the other dumb shit he said. First off, he thought the film's score was bad, which is insane. Its score is on the same level as all the other iconic Batman scores, you know, ba 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 ba. Like, that's amazing. It's one of the best superhero scores. Michael Giacchino did it. Amazing score. Was nominated for an Oscar. If not, it was robbed. He also said Pattinson had a weak performance. I assume this is because of the fact that Ben only thinks a good performance is someone yelling and being intimidating. Pattinson gave a fantastic performance in this movie. It doesn't do much like high energy Bruce Wayne stuff. That's because it's going for a darker detective Batman tone. He perfectly is able to nail all of this. And he was really believable as a character. Another complaint from Ben was that the movie makes the good politicians black and the bad politicians white, and I seriously... Like, what is even the point of complaining about this shit? The characters' races are irrelevant to the story. It does not matter. The film never talks about race, so why the fuck should it matter in your review? Ben! Apparently the film was also a rip-off of the movie Seven, because of the fact that the bad guy turns himself in, and it's a detective story. Another random nitpick that I just had to mention, because it's just so random, was Ben's complaint about the character, or the other characters in the film calling himself Vengeance, because, quote, he never said it publicly. Like, what kind of critique is this, man? He's just trying to call the movie dumb for the most irrelevant, random little details, because you can't comprehend the idea that the whole Vengeance name could have caught on in other ways than him publicly making a public announcement saying, everyone, I would like to go by the name of Vengeance. Like, seriously, Ben. Now for Ben's insane interpretation of the film. According to film genius Ben Shapiro, the movie's message was that Batman should not fight criminals and only help people. And also he thinks this is bad. In my opinion, the movie is pretty clearly saying that Bruce has realized his vengeance alter ego makes people fear him as inspired criminals. Like the scene where the other criminal from early in the movie, at the end, he's like, he calls himself Vengeance and he realizes the impact he's had. Very good. I really like this movie. Sorry. So after this, he decides to actually help people of Gotham. It was, in my opinion, a pretty amazing scene. He is now seen as a symbol of hope, and he's guiding the people out, trying to save them. Fantastic scene. And he becomes transformed into his Batman figure instead of the figure of Vengeance. Ben sees this as a movie saying he shouldn't fight criminals, and he then claims the film has a defund the police agenda because Batman isn't fighting crime. This review and this interpretation just makes no sense. And based on these two reviews, I think it's pretty clear Ben just doesn't understand superheroes quite as well as he believes. Like and subscribe if you've been enjoying the video so far. I plan on doing more content like this in the future, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, back onto the video. This just might be Ben's masterpiece. In his video titled Ben Shapiro Destroys the Barbie Movie for 43 minutes, which is maybe the greatest thumbnail and title of all time, especially considering the fact that this video is only 42 minutes long. This video, Ben is able to absolutely tear apart the Barbie movie in ways which just absolutely destroys any possibility of a person enjoying this film. Starting off this masterpiece of a video, Ben is able to show off his elite athletic ability by failing to throw a Barbie doll into a bin, and he then burns the Barbie doll, subtly showing how cool and edgy Ben is. And he then shows maybe the greatest tweet of all time, where Ben pretends that he was forced against his will to go see the Barbie movie, when in reality he probably bought the tickets himself. The photo alongside it is just, chef kiss. Perfect. The allegedly 5'9" Ben Shapiro standing next to the Barbie sign for a couple pieces of paper he used to take notes on. Just amazing amazing tweet. Now onto the actual video. Ben makes the genius prediction that after this opening weekend, people will realize how trash and awful this movie is and will bomb at the box office. Holy airball. Ben's first argument as for why the film is garbage is that the film has no audience. Once again, I point to the box office. Many times he says, who is this movie made for? The answer, as off script here, that Billie Eilish reference to the song from the movie, who was I made for? Back to review. The answer, of course, to who is this movie made for is woman, specifically older woman who grew up with Barbie, which I assume Ben isn't an older woman. Obviously, a lot of kids saw this film and they really enjoyed it because they have a better critical thinking ability than Ben Shapiro. Ben also heavily gets mad about the fact that this movie references something a child won't understand, like the 2001 reference, which makes film bad because kids will be confused because they haven't watched 2001. So how are they going to understand this scene and like the movie because they haven't seen 2001? Come on, Ben, use your brain. I'm curious if Ben has the same problems with like Shrek when Fiona jumps up like Trinity from The Matrix. Kids haven't seen The Matrix. Shrek is garbage. Also, apparently the film was too edgy for Ben, citing the scene where Ken say they will beat each other off, which is, of course, very inappropriate for kids, even though it isn't a kids' movie in the first place, and the kids who see the movie will not understand the joke, and the joke itself is just funny. And once again, I'm going back to Shrek to point out that kids' movies have always had very inappropriate jokes in them, so why is it the Barbie movie that's just too far, you can't do that in? Ben also thinks the film's claim that there is still a patriarchy in today's society is ridiculous. Men very much that have a higher advantage than women do in today's society. And Ben makes it clear in his review that he thinks women being in power is just a purely ridiculous idea. He also complains about the film going against the mythos of Barbie, once again going back to the IP thing from Superman. And this comes from the fact that in the movie she doesn't like Ken, which makes Ben furious for some reason. That the movie also implies that people can be happy without being in a relationship. Ken's journey in the film is one of self-discovery and like a realization how he doesn't need to obsess over Barbie or fight for power in this patriarchy to just be happy. He can just be happy being just Ken. And the film makes it pretty clear through the song I'm Just Ken, probably the best scene in the movie, one of the best scenes from that year. And it features an amazing, undeniably amazing song. What's that? Ben says the song isn't good? Ben says the song isn't good? Is he a psychopath? And how can I even pretend to take someone seriously when they don't treat the song I'm Just Ken like the masterpiece that it is? According to Ben, the film makes no sense and is just a piece of angry feminist claptrap with terrible writing and awful acting. Personally, I wasn't even a big fan of the film, but I still enjoy it. And Ben's review just completely misses every aspect of the film. Second to last review I want to talk about is Ben's review for Glass Onion, the Knives Out mystery, which, to quote the great Ben Shapiro, is
It's a stupid, stupid movie. It is stupidly plotted, it is filled with stupid characters and stupid writing, and Rian Johnson's a stupid, stupid man.
His Glass Onion review clearly shows Ben's inability to actually just review movies in the first place. One of Ben's biggest complaints for the film was the fact that he was fooled by a plot twist. That being the twin twist. If you haven't seen the movie, I refuse to explain it to you because it's a great movie. I really like it. So just, if you haven't seen the movie, skip this part of the video. It's a great movie in my opinion. Check it out. And this complaint from Ben being that the entire first half of the movie is a waste of time because it misleads you into believing that a character was Andy when you figure out halfway through the film that Andy was dead and this person was her twin sister Helen. This is a fantastic twist in my opinion because it totally changes the context of the first half of the film. And on a rewatch, it becomes so clear and little details stand out. Like one of my favorite parts is rewatching the film and like Miles's kind of reaction to seeing Andy, in quotation marks, alive, and we think it's because we think when we first watch it, he's just shocked that she showed up because of all the controversy between them and stuff. Then we rewatch the movie and he's like seeing a dead person come back to life and stuff. It's just little details like that is just so amazing. And I love the twist because it adds even more layers of mystery and enhances the plot much further than what we initially thought it to be. Ben complains that this isn't foreshadowed during the movie, which he is dead wrong about. Some people, not me, noticed her unease on the boat and the subtle signs of her not being used to this kind of lifestyle, like she had uneven nails or something. Small details like this show some audience members little signs and details to realize that there's more to a character than what we believe, which I'm impressed people have figured that out, but, you know, good on them, I guess. And Ben thinks that the first half of the movie is just a complete waste of time. I'm confused on how this would be the case. The first half builds up the characters and the story so well that we get an idea of who everyone is, which is crucial to a murder mystery. The first half of the film is in no way, quote, waste of time. Ben also complains that the twist was a lie, not a red herring, which is correct. That's why it's a twist. I'm not sure why he's arguing with this. Another random complaint that the film doesn't have a consistent POV. So I guess Magnolia is also a terrible film then. Back to Ben failing to understand the story, which is pretty well explained to the audience. He claims none of the movie would have happened because the police would have very easily solved Andy's death, so the movie shouldn't have happened. Realistically, I very much believe that there is not a shot that the police would have solved that case because it very clearly looked like a suicide. And there's no way the police would see this and be like, I reckon someone actually poisoned her instead. And even if they did, like, come on, man. They're not solving this like that. And Ben says that Andy's journal should have been used as evidence that she had ownership of the company, which in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, doesn't really make much sense. I wouldn't look at someone's own journal. This is before she died. Like, I can't just write in my journal that I own a company and then use that as evidence. Say, look, I wrote it down in my journal years ago. I don't think that would hold up well. I could be wrong though. Ben is also confused why Miles sent Andy a box if he knew she was dead. And this is like one of the most obvious things that I'm confused how he allegedly smart person, was not able to figure this out. He sent her the box because it makes it look like he didn't know she was dead. Ben, it's not that hard to figure out. Ben. He also complains the characters weren't given clear enough motivations, but later in the video he lists every character's apparently non-existent motivations against Miles. Ben then says that all the characters are morons for not exposing Miles so they can become rich and famous, clearly not understanding that they are also just terrible people who never tried to take down Miles because it all helps them. They're idiots. That's the point. He's also mad that Miles's character is an idiot, which according to Ben is a common trope, which is just not true at all. Murder mysteries almost always feature a villain being some kind of genius mastermind. This movie shows him being an idiot to trick you into not seeing how simple everything really was. Ben then also decides to complain about The Last Jedi, which immediately removes any validity possible to this review, because he's still a salty crybaby about The Last Jedi. The worst thing that Ben Shapiro has ever done is pretty easily his top 10 most overrated directors list, which he made when he was a quote-unquote journalist. And this really isn't a competition. You have to really wonder what this insane man was thinking when he made this. Coming in 10th place, Ridley Scott. And if this list was created today, I think they have a decent argument for this. You know, Napoleon, Gladiator 2, and House of Gucci has made a lot of stinkers recently. But this list comes from 2010, when Ridley Scott was still a pretty respectable filmmaker. Ben critiques Scott's films through simple statements and refuses to elaborate on them. One of the worst, probably the worst of this whole list, is his quote, "Alien is slow," which is his whole argument for the film being bad. And I kind of agree with Ben's opinion. I think Alien is a slow movie, but it's also a masterpiece. Its slow pacing is deliberate to build up to the characters and suspense. He makes small offhand comments for why he doesn't like Scott's films without actually talking about him as a director or his directing as a whole. Like, he calls Blade Runner a bizarre, overpraised mess. But why, Ben? I want to know why you think this. That's why someone would be reading your list, would it not be? I want to hear your actual opinion instead of just simple offhand comments. At 9th place, he has Michael Mann, best known for his films like Heat, The Insider, and The Last of the Mohicans. His films are gritty, realistic, and intense, filled with great cinematography. Ben Shapiro's reason for disliking him, quote, "all style, no substance." That's it. That's all he uses to talk about Michael Mann. Just 4 words and moves on. I can't even argue with anything that Ben says here because I don't know what he means by this. I can't even say anything about this because I don't know what he means. Anyway, I guess I have to move on, I guess. At number 8, Ben has David Lean, famous for classic films such as Lawrence of Arabia and The Bridge on the River Kwai. Ben's main problem with David Lean's filmography is that all his films are at least half an hour too long, which isn't a crazy opinion, because they're all very long movies. Lawrence of Arabia is 3.5 hours. It definitely can feel slow at times. But the thing about David Lean's films are that they're meant to be experienced. You know, they really changed the game because they are designed with this idea of going to the cinema and experiencing 3.5 hours of beautiful cinematography and detailed directing. And you're really meant to be engrossed in these movies and their worlds. And the influence on Lean's films alone should be enough to argue his significance as a filmmaker. He's pretty much the pioneer of the epic genre. At number 7, Ben has Darren Aronofsky, who I will admit is a bit of a blind spot for me. Most of his films are on my watch list. I've only seen The Whale, but Aronofsky does have his new film coming out this week, so I should be seeing that at some point. But I'm not sure if I should bother watching Darren Aronofsky films because Ben Shapiro doesn't seem to be a fan of him, so why should I even bother watching his movies? Ben refers to Aronofsky as a talentless dud, calls his debut film Pi the worst movie he's ever seen, and quote, "made him want to rip out his own retinas and then replace them through surgery, then rip them out again." Ben is disgusted that Requiem for a Dream features characters doing bad things and cannot feel sympathy for these bad people. Direct quote, "he's got to have sympathetic characters before we can feel bad for them." He hates the movie Black Swan and is disgusted by Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman's lesbian activities in the film, because of course he is. The main thing Ben talks about in this section is his disgust over the lesbian sex scenes in his movies, which is hilarious when you remember he could have spent that time actually making an argument for why he doesn't like Michael Mann's films. Ben also says Aronofsky is trying too hard to copy David Lynch, which is crazy. Their films are nothing alike thematically or stylistically, except the fact that both their films can get weird at times. Aronofsky's success also apparently makes Shapiro question his faith in God. Like, seriously, I cannot take this guy seriously, man. Oh my days. At number 6, Ben has Mike Nichols, known for directing The Graduate and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Ben only talks about The Graduate in its article, so I assume that's the only one he's seen. He calls the film child angst and says the ending makes The Graduate, quote, unworthy of human viewing. The Graduate has one of the most famous and iconic endings of all time. I would love for Ben to explain what was so awful about it. I genuinely have no idea what Ben means by this. He says it's a cop-out, but it definitely feels like an ending to me, and very impactful ending at that. Ben says nothing about Mike Nichols' other films. He's made plenty of not very well-received films. Why not talk about those films and saying he doesn't make good movies? It would be a much more convincing argument than just complaining about this one movie which Ben clearly saw and didn't like. So he just decided throwing this director on the list. At number 5, Ben has one of my goats, David Lynch, rest in peace. I think this section really shows Ben's inability to enjoy films that are not straightforward. Lynch is famous for creating films that are weird and hard to understand, which obviously isn't going to work for everyone. And I feel that even if his films are not for you, it's hard to deny the unique vision which David Lynch brings to film. And Ben's really able to sum up this vision with his quote, pure and absolute suckage. Ben believes Lynch's films are overly complicated stories that mean nothing. Lynch prioritizes making the audience feel something instead of just watching the film. Unfortunately for Ben, he doesn't want to watch films that are weird and complicated. So David Lynch just doesn't work for him. He also mentions how disgusted he is by graphic sex scenes in his films. Number 4, Quentin Tarantino. I will be honest with you, I'm really not sure what Ben is trying to say. His claim is that Tarantino's movies are overrated and just reads like pretentious nonsense from Ben, and he's unable to actually decide what his problem is. Quote, Tarantino's films are like an army moving over a landscape in search for an idea. And I'm honestly not sure what that even means, to be honest with you. Like, what the hell does that even mean? And so I'll give my perspective. What's great about Tarantino's films, other than the addictive dialogue, is the subversive storytelling that breaks the standard film structure. As someone who's a fan of his films, I find it hard to believe that someone who's allegedly a big movie guy can at least appreciate his ability to tell original stories in interesting and unusual ways, like oddly structured timelines and stuff. It's pretty creative stuff. And also, I think the only things I can understand from this section was Ben doesn't like the violence in the movies and he just finds them boring. Come on, Ben. You gotta be better than this, Ben. You really need to work on your writing. I don't think you're gonna make it as a journalist. Number 3 on this list is Woody Allen. Fuck Woody Allen. Number 2, Ben has Martin Scorsese, one of the greatest directors of all time, creating iconic films like Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, and Raging Bull. But you know what the problem with all these films are? That's right, the characters aren't likable enough. As I mentioned earlier, it is impossible for Ben Shapiro to enjoy a film unless the main characters are good people. He watches Goodfellas and thinks Henry Hill doesn't seem like a nice guy, so why should I care about this masterful directing by Scorsese? Without having any actual arguments, Ben goes back to making one-off comments to disregard great films without actually telling us anything about why he doesn't like them. Quotes, Raging Bull is gross. Mean Streets is gross and soporific. His films aren't even that disturbing or hard to sit through, but apparently it makes Ben want to, quote, feel the need to take a shower after watching. Ben's rejection of film violence and dark themes and characters just makes him sound like a sensitive 12-year-old kid. The most overrated director of all time, according to film genius Benjamin Shapiro, is Alfred Hitchcock, aka the master of suspense. According to Ben, Hitchcock has never actually made a great film, just decent concepts which resulted in nothing. I thought maybe since it was his number 1 spot, Ben would actually go into detail about why they are not a great director, but he continues to not do that. He continues with just the same one-off comments like from Scorsese's. Here we go. Here's some quotes for you. Rear Window makes one want to reach for the fast forward button. Vertigo makes one want to reach for the cyanide. Just, come on, man. He refuses to actually explain his opinions, and this whole list is just Ben listing famous directors and saying, nah, they actually suck. without giving any reason to actually agree with them. Just 10 insane, horrible opinions. I'm not even sure if this list is real. Like if it's actual opinion. Just puts 10 directors and said, nah, they suck. I don't think I could name 10 directors who I passionately hate their movies. Like, I think it's impossible for me to make a list of 10 without saying, like, oh yeah, they still make some good movies though. Like, I don't know, it feels very fake to me. Anyway, that's all I have time for today. If you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Comment your thoughts. I'd love to make more videos like this. Ben's a pretty easy target, so stay tuned if you enjoyed the video. Adios.